welcome to Formula First TV, brought to you by CMS Limited for exclusive coverage of the Haiku Components New Zealand Formula First Championship. This weekend we're at Pukekohe Park Raceway on the more traditional long back straight this weekend, and as always we've got our local Formula First expert Jonathan Morton. Jonathan, long back track, 50th anniversary, a championship, it's all on.
Yeah, it's a big weekend for the class, both past and present, so looking forward to some exciting racing this weekend.
And of course, Friday practice, there was most of the people turned up to have a bit of a run round here, because most people actually haven't done the whole circuit before. But leading into qualifying, it ended up Chris Symon poaching the pole right at the end. Yeah,
Chris actually didn't turn up for testing on Friday. He was work commitments, and so it was his first time running on the back straight, but he got to grips with it fast and managed to, as you say, I think it was about the last 2 minutes in qualifying, steal the pole away from Brodie McConkie, who held it throughout the session.
And so with Chris taking pole right at the end from Brodie McConkie, it set up for a really interesting front row as Brodie McConkie's only coming back for this round. And to have a few words from Chris, here he is.
Yeah, well, without practicing yesterday, it was great to be able to just go out and do some good, consistent laps at the start. My times were reasonable, but not quick enough anywhere near the sort of the top three. And then towards the end, after the couple of red flags, we managed to pull a lap together and pop it on pole by just under a hundredth of a second. So pretty happy with our testing yesterday, and it's a great way to start the Haiku Components round two.
So with the sun beating down at Pukekohe Park Raceway, race one was underway, and it was marred by a few incidents, unfortunately, Jonathan.
Yeah, down in the first lap, everyone came flying in there, and of course they haven't been down there at 200 k's an hour for a while, and they all got bottlenecked, and unfortunately we had a four-car incident that caused a safety car, and saw the retirement of Barry Holden back on return, a guy, a bit of a blast from the past, and Kyan Davies.
Yeah, so there wasn't actually much damage. They just couldn't get, Kyan had a gear problem and Barry couldn't get restarted, so they managed to get those cars removed quickly, and we managed to get some really good Formula First racing in.
Yeah, the last 5 laps was spectacular. It was traditional Formula First racing. Big pack at the front, positions changing 3 or 4 times a lap, 3 or 4 times a straight in fact. And every lap they came over top of the hill, new person in the lead, and by the time they got to turn 1 they were probably in about 5th.
And so, as always here at Pukekohe Park, the race is won at the hairpin, and it's really whoever comes up over the hill in the right spot. But for once, Chris Symon led from the hairpin all the way to the line.
Yeah, he made the big and quite bold move round the outside. Brodie McConkie tried to back them up because obviously he thought he was going to be stuck in the lead. And Chris managed to take advantage of it, and he got just enough run to make it all the way to the flag.
But behind them it all sort of, really went off, so to speak.
That's right. As they crest the top of the hill, they all dove down to the inside to try and protect their line. And unfortunately it resulted in a bit of contact between Thomas Boniface and Billy Fraser, who managed to spin across the track, and Taylor Hurst had to take a void in action. Unfortunately for both of them, made contact with the wall on each side of the track.
Yeah, so Billy Fraser only really sort of nudged the wall, but had a bit of rear end damage, and Taylor Hurst really had the big impact with the concrete on the inside and did quite severe damage to his car.
Yeah, Taylor actually hit the wall so hard, probably 20-30 minutes before the start finish line, but the momentum just carried him right across, and he actually still finished the race. And Billy Fraser was parked there for a minute, and he thought about it, fired her up, and drove the thing across the finish line, which is great to see. So he scored some valuable championship points. Yeah,
so Chris Symon ended up taking that win from Brodie McConkie and Reece Sendelcox, but all three going across the line together, separated by only a couple of tenths.
Yeah, it was back to traditional Formula First racing, which is what we know and what we love. And it was great to see another close 3-wide finish here at Pukekohe.
Yeah, it was pretty hectic. Obviously, the safety car in the first lap made things interesting and cut the race down a bit. Sort of just tried to clear off, and it didn't work like obviously it did at Manfield, and raced hard, and everyone was close. And then in the last lap, managed to take the lead into the hairpin from 4th, and just go over the line in 1st. And I think there was a little bit of carnage behind, but other than that, it was a great race.
And so race 5 of the championship here on Sunday morning, with the sun beating down here at Pukekohe Park Raceway, was another epic battle up the front with 7 cars all in the lead pack, Jonathan. But we had really 2 packs in this race.
Yeah, it was the front pack of 7 who they got a break on about lap 2, managed to split, sort of edged away to about 4-second gap. But then there was another pack of 7 as well behind them. So it was an interesting race all throughout the field.
Yeah, so it was pretty much even Stevens right the way through. There was lead changes, and this front pack really skipped away. But right until that last lap, where they all sort of switched their brains off like they normally do, and it's all hell for leather to the line.
Yeah, Brodie McConkie had a very good run through about laps 5, 6, 7, and he managed to seem to come over the hill every time and have 10 car lengths lead. Obviously they closed back up on him, but it looked like if he could just maintain what he was doing, he'd have quite an easy victory. But as they went down the back straight and the heat came on, they all jostled and there was a few cars off in the grass, but they all managed to get on and finish the race.
Yeah, so down the back straight, it ended up with Billy Fraser into the grass when they were jostling for positions 3 and 4 wide in that front group. But it was Thomas Boniface who led out of the hairpin, which is generally not where you want to be, but apparently this weekend it is.
Yeah, he followed what Chris did yesterday and took the lead and managed to maintain it all the way up and over the hill. And he obviously was challenged very closely by Brodie and Chris, but he managed to just sneak out his win. And that's for a rookie to get a win and it's only his 5th race, national race win, it's a very, very good effort.
It's great to see the rookies doing well, and just to show how close the class is, 6 cars covered by less than a second.
Yeah, and it's good to see somebody else up the top too, a fresh face of the class, and that's actually the first time that Chris Symon has not led a session in the weekend so far this season.
Yes, that's right, and a few words from our race winner, Thomas Boniface.
No, I just kept my cool. Made sure I planned ahead for the next move that I was going to do. But it was a good race. I mean, the drivers all drove really well and close and fair. So I'm really happy with what happened today. And thanks to my dad for doing all the mechanic work.
Race 6 of the championship here at Pukekohe Park Raceway took a familiar grid with Brodie McConkey and Chris Symon sharing the front row again. And Joe Nothane, it was another epic battle out front.
Yeah, it took much the same form as the rest of the weekend. The front 7 or 8 managed to keep the gap and they just fought amongst themselves, and then the rest of the guys battled out for the minors at the back of the top 10.
Yeah, so it had a couple of groups and they were all trying to catch this front bunch, but the front bunch of sort of 7 or 8 cars looked like it was going to be a grandstand finish, and then it all sort of erupted on lap 6.
Yeah, about lap 4 I think it was, we lost Brodie McConkey from the front group, and they're all sort of setting themselves up with 2 to go going down into the first turn, and all of a sudden there was smoke and there was cars off left, right and centre. Our championship leader, Chris Symon, had an engine let go and that caused a lot of kerfuffle behind him. So we had Ron Carter going off, followed by Ronan Murphy, and old Dave Scammell came into the corner backwards, which I'm sure was quite exciting for him, but he managed to gather it all up, and fortunately nobody made contact and managed to get going apart from Symon.
Let's be fair, D1NZ would have given Dave Scammell a 10 out of 10 for that entry into turn 1, but after that, the safety car came out and it did neutralise the field, and it ended up with Reece Hendelcox taking the win.
Yeah, it was really a shame. We've had fantastic racing all weekend, and it's been a real battle down to the line. And I mean, they spent all weekend coming across the start-finish line 3 wide on every single lap. So it was a shame we didn't have the big grandstand finish that the crowd here certainly deserved.
Yes, so unfortunately that, but good news for Thomas Boniface and Billy Fraser finishing on the podium there. And with a word from our winner, here's Reece Hendelcox.
It was quite good. I was lucky enough to drive a good car all weekend, and sort of consistency came into it, and we were quite lucky in the last one with a safety car.
And now moving on to the CMS Hard Charger, and Jonathan, you've got a very deserved winner.
Yeah, I'm going to give it to young Billy Fraser. He was in for the fight of the podium in the first race, ended up parked in the fence. The car was destroyed. You know what the young man did? He fired her up and he dragged its ass across the finish line to score some crucial championship points. And
yes, that really epitomises the CMS Hard Charger Award that we give out each round. And speaking of rounds, round results there, Jonathan.
Yeah, it was a bit of an interesting round. No one really had a clean weekend, but obviously Reece Hendelcox, he was the man who came out on top for the round, followed behind by Thomas Boniface and Amy Smith. And Thomas Boniface, courtesy of his race win this morning and also a solid weekend, was the top rookie. And Ron Carter, once again, the old Sunset Award winner for this round. He was fighting at the back of the front pack all weekend, so he's showing some good form.
And yes, Ron's doing quite well there, actually, with the old Sunset Award and being up the front of the pack in the actual championship. And speaking of championships, Chris Symon, even though he's had a DNF, still leading.
Yeah, he's really been able to take advantage of such a spectacular start to the season. Not finishing off the podium in the first, 4 wins and a third. It's sort of established a lead, which has actually become quite crucial very early in the championship.
Yes, and now with a second round win for Reece Hendelcox, he's actually jumped up there into second and really fighting out for this championship.
Yeah, he's closed the gap remarkably, and it sort of shows how quickly it can change, and it goes back to scoring points every round and every race. So it's going to be an exciting break over Christmas. Everyone will obviously be trying to get that extra edge, because once we get back, she's flat out to the end.
Yes, definitely. It looks like it's going to be a great championship. Thank you, Jonathan, this weekend for your expert comments, and we look forward to a nice Christmas break now. We're 7 weeks away from Hampton Downs, the New Zealand Motor Cup, and it'll be the third round of the Haiku Components New Zealand Formula First Championship. See you then.